that could be applied to developing a core group or an organization on a student campus. Now, we've all been involved in many student groups or outside organizations and have seen different objectives and goals, but for the most part, the structure remains the same. You have a leader or two who sets the agenda with the consent of the group, and you try to measure the success as you move along. Some groups are more focused or organized, but for the most part, the structure is still the same. However, this evening, I want to discuss a different way to look at student organizations and tie in the focus Starbucks had in creating more than just a business, but an experience. Student groups can be very focused, organized, and accomplish a lot of great things on their own campus in regards to putting on events. That alone may not change an outsider's view on libertarianism or the liberty movement. And essentially, that is the most important thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to invite more people into the liberty movement within our community. To do that, you need to have an organization that is approachable and truly advocates and supports open and honest discussion. To do that, you need core leadership that adopts the group and its philosophy and mission. Now, if you're just starting a group, you may be alone. It's extremely important to find others who are interested in starting the same general thing that you are. And the great thing about SFL groups is that we aren't stuck just talking about economics or politics, but anything related to the liberty movement. So it should be easy to find someone who is interested in something related to the liberty movement. I recommend first starting a Facebook group, starting discussions, and seeing who and what people are talking about. Go from there. Set up a meeting. Communicate what you're interested in and what topics and ideas you have. It's usually best to do this in a very informal setting, maybe over coffee, and just kind of get to know and learn more about the people that you've met on Facebook that share similar interests. Listen to their ideas. Find a way to make everything work for you. If one person is more focused on civil liberties compared to economic theory, running meetings that match their passion, their enthusiasm about the topic will show to others in the meeting, and it should generate a more lively discussion. You get to learn how people interact, who is quiet and who is the talker. You need to write these things down when the group is just developing. Study the group dynamics, because if you don't understand the group, you really can't try to find a way to encourage each individual member to really adopt it. And without passionate members, you can't find passionate leaders, and the organization may very well die when you graduate. And that's the last thing we want to do if our goal is to create an established organization, an established movement and presence on your campus. And once you've established a general group outline with a few members, it's time to start thinking about creating a community out of it. Now back to Starbucks, the founder, Howard Schultz, knew that selling coffee was just one thing, but creating an experience, a community, was the sustainable and more ethical approach to run a business or organization. It wasn't just about one product. So as a student organization, don't just think of this as a tool to convert others or provide an educational resource, but as a family that learns together, that grows together. I saw my organization at ASU as a family, and I wanted to help them in any way possible, even if it had nothing to do with the liberty movement. If there was a way to help someone, I wanted to do it. Hopefully it showed that type of attitude, that friendliness, that selflessness, creates more of a connected community than just a group that meets once a week. Another positive benefit of creating a core group or family instead of just an organization is that it may be more friendly and willing to discuss different opinions and ideas with people and truly engage them. You aren't looking for a victory, but more of an understanding of the other person. This type of culture is important if you want a group to grow. Otherwise, it might just feel like a weekly lecture. People that enjoy coming. Sorry, but I have a bird in the background. I'm watching it for my family, and it's a little crazy right now, so I hope it's not too annoying. Another positive benefit of creating students that don't come from a libertarian background, they feel more willing to defend our ideas to their friends if they're convinced not by a lecturer or a speaker, but by their peers. They tie those discussions and arguments to you, and if they have a strong connection with them, they may be more willing to defend those ideas to their more liberal or conservative friends. Even if they aren't, they may be more willing to come back and ask more questions before surrendering their point in the future. And this is exactly what we need. We are great at expanding our movement's knowledge, but we need to start penetrating new markets. New students who go out and defend our ideas to their friends and family. Students who get excited about these ideas will do that. But how do you go back to your campus to create that experience? The way that Starbucks created a leisurely place to meet with people over coffee. Because remember, before Starbucks, you really didn't have a place to go and grab coffee. It was usually at a diner. This coffee experience that so many of us enjoy, where we go and study late at night, really wasn't around until Starbucks. So how do we kind of match their focus? It's actually quite easy and fun. As simple as throwing a party and have a few socials throughout each semester. Give your members an opportunity to come and play some games, eat some foods, and drink some beers. Get them talking not just about Liberty, but about themselves, so people start making personal connections. People learn about each other. They laugh and they mingle. And that's exactly what we want out of a group. We want them to feel more than just, the group more than just an educational resource. Another way is to offer events or socials after meetings. Allow people the opportunity to take discussions out of the classroom in the lecture and into a different atmosphere. Have a tradition of going to a certain bar or coffee shop or pizza place after each meeting and have people ask questions about what was their favorite part of the meeting. As a leader of this organization, you really need to be compelling and start these conversations up for people so that all the conversations relate back to the group, but also offer a kind of informal setting. Ways to do that are ask them what was their favorite part, who had the most compelling argument, what surprised you most about the meeting, anything that they didn't think of before, how they plan to look into this in the future, just kind of subtle discussion topics that you bring up during a conversation. Again, when students are committed not only to the mission of the organization, but the people inside it, they may be more willing to make sacrifices to help lead and maintain the group moving forward. And there's nothing more pleasing than seeing a group you helped start or lead continuing the growth and culture you had after you left. So it's important to develop that family culture. And I hope my tips of throwing parties and trying to build friendships over relationships provides help moving forward with your group. That's all I have until the question series. I don't know how to switch over though.
Okay, thanks, Falco.
Oh, great.
At this point, I will jump in with mine. We'll do all the questions at the end, so I'll go, and then Kelly will go, and then Karina will go, and then we'll do the questions at the end. And please, again, be sure to type in your questions into the question box. And let's do this. Okay, so you guys should all see these PowerPoint up for how to run a successful speaking event. So I broke this down into the top 10 steps to hosting a successful speaking event. And you can see the steps listed right there, and I'll just go into detail about them. And yeah, and then ask questions at the end. So the first stage is setting the speaker, and make sure you get this done early. This stage should happen about 2 months before you're planning to host the event. Start ruling out the times that conflict with anything else that's going on in your school, like big football games, homecoming. For big metro areas like DC or Philadelphia, be sure to check out that other allied student groups are not having an event at that date and time. In general, try to avoid Fridays unless you tie with a social. I know we tried a Friday for one of our events. One time it was unsuccessful. We did it on a Friday afternoon. The other time we had a bunch of people go out for a social afterwards, and so that kind of worked out because people are like, oh yeah, I'll go to this event and then go to the social with everyone because it's a Friday night. So yeah, just try to play it around like that. I guess my best advice is just choose the best time. Choosing the best time depends on the community at your school. If you have a big commuter school, there are certain days that will work better than other days. And so again, the big thing that I'm going to emphasize in all of these is making sure that you do everything early. And then step 2 is book the room early. I know at our school, the rooms get booked up like 2 months in advance, so you have to do at least 2 or 3 months in advance to get a really good room. It also gives you a better chance of getting the size and the location that you want. The best location is one that is close to the busy areas of campus. Also book the room for ample time to account for the speaker talking over, or long Q&As, or for students who want to stay after the event to converse with the speaker. Additionally, before you book the room, be sure to actually physically visit the room if you've never been there before. Make sure the room and area have like an inviting and open environment, audio and visual capabilities, and plenty of seating space for the expected audience. And one of the things is don't make the mistake of booking a room that is too large. That's right there. It is much better to have a smaller room filled to capacity than a huge room that is half empty. Again, it looks bad. If all, all other students are going through the same process, so administrators may be stressed. And we've had issues with this before, but make sure to make friends and not enemies. They will remember your organizations. We've always been friendly with our events management and kind of gotten like okays for things that were like really close up to the time because they knew us and like we've worked really well with them. So that's another thing to stress. Step 3, after you've booked your location, be sure to let the speaker know and confirm with them. Absolutely do not assume that just because the speaker gave you a few dates at work that they'll be available. You need to confirm with the speaker as soon as the room is booked. If you take too long, the speaker might start looking up for other arrangements, and make sure you get a definite like, yes, I will be there. If you're paying for the speaker's travel, this is the time to discuss travel arrangements and accommodations. Book the flights and accommodations once you've confirmed with the speaker, and also be sure to send any flights and hotel information directly to the speaker. And as always, thank the speaker, say that you're looking forward to hosting him or her. Step 4, dealing with administration and bureaucracy. So yeah, this is a pretty big problem for some student groups. There'll be many, many rules that you'll need to follow that'll definitely make your life more difficult. Make sure you learn the rules so you're not taken by surprise on the day of the event. You want to find the answers to like some of the questions that I've listed, like can you serve food in the room? How do you go about getting a microphone? What's the maximum number of students that can like legally be in the room? How do you go about getting extra chairs or podium? These and many other questions are important to learn beforehand. Once you've learned the school's policies or procedures, work with them to make sure you properly request an LCD projector, microphone, or podium. Again, it's important to do these logistics steps early. The longer you wait, the harder it'll be to get the equipment you need. I know with my organization, we had an issue once getting an LCD projector, and it was the most awful experience. So be sure to get your logistics in early. Step 5, create a Facebook event. So I'm going to put a warning out there because this has been, some student groups have in the past had unsuccessful turnouts because they only use Facebook as their method of advertising. So the warning says, this form of advertising is necessary but not sufficient. Don't get into the Facebook trap. Don't stop advertising just because you've made a Facebook event. Facebook events are important and a great way of getting the message out there about your event. But if you have a Facebook group for your organization, use your Facebook group, create an event, but don't stop there. Pick an interesting title for the Facebook event. Generally, if the speaker is a big name, you want to include the speaker's name in the title and an event with a catchy topic. And then the example is, Michael Tanner, who's paying for your health care. Be sure to add important details. Add directions to the building, a link to the map, any details about location of the room, parking information, if anything else that's relevant. Add links to any publications by the speaker. Be sure to invite all your friends to the event, make all the officers and administrators on the event, and encourage them to invite all their friends. And as you approach closer and closer, make sure to send out Facebook messages. Step 6 is strategic advertising. If you want a good turnout, you need to strategically advertise. You know, you could have the best speaker in the world, but if you don't get the message out there, the event will be unsuccessful. So I know SFL, we really advertise, you know, marketing and getting the info out there. And the kind of 4 methods that I broke that down into are media, Facebook, which I just talked about, university, and then flyers and chalking. For media, blogs are awesome, especially if your professor or if your speaker is like, you know, a pretty big name. Get them to like talk about their event on your blog. If you guys have a blog, you know, link your blog to the Facebook, put it up on your Facebook, or do whatever with it. Just blog about the event. You'll get your followers to catch this. For emails, email the members in your listserv. If you have like allies as well, you know, like we're at George Mason, we'll have like the AU Students for Liberty email it out to their classes or to their students as well. So stuff like that. The school newspaper, you can write your own piece about the upcoming event and tie it into a central idea, or you can get the newspaper to cover it. I know once we've advertised all over campus, some of the people in the student newspaper will come up to you and ask you, like, or email you, hey, can we interview you for this event? Like, this looks cool. So yeah. So we talked about Facebook for the university. This is crucial, and I really want to emphasize this. It's a great way to connect with other student groups, both on campus and around the area. So, you know, get out there, talk to the other student groups, help them like advertise your event, get them to come out, tell them why their members would be interested in this event. So for example, you know, if you're doing an event on like, I don't know, gay rights or something like that, get into those organizations and have them come out as well. It's a great way to also, you know, build relationships and allies. Also utilize your university department secretaries. You know, if the event is on healthcare, email all the secretaries of the economics department, the healthcare policy, biology, chemistry, and so on. Ask the secretaries, you know, this is an event that might be of interest to the biology majors. Can you please send out the information below to them? Be sure to personalize the emails. You don't have to mention you can mention your organization information at the bottom and so on. It's a great way to reach out. Also utilize your professors and classes. If you have some free market oriented professors, ask them to advertise the event and to their students and possibly offer extra credit to the students. Ask your professor if they can do a quick speech about the upcoming events, or have your own members go to the classrooms and have them do speeches before the events. Okay, so then we're moving on to confirm the logistics. So this timeline, you have about a week left before the event, and it's time to reconfirm with your speaker. Basically, you just want to email your speaker and discuss logistics. You know, when will the speaker be getting in? When are you picking him up? Is he interested in going to a social afterwards? Is there a particular biography he wants you to read? You should also mention the expected audience size and the scheduling and timing of the event. For example, you know, the speaker should talk for an hour and there should be a 15-minute Q&A at the end. Confirm your other logistics, like, you know, catering, if you have an LCD projector, microphones, etc., or anything that you have to go through with the administrator. And also determine who will be introducing the speaker. An opening speech should be prepared that introduces your club, including the date and time of your next meeting, and also introduces the speaker. All right, so this is the day or two before the event. We call it last big push. You want to blast the event all over Facebook, make it your Facebook status, and urge people to like come out tonight. Post a link to your friends, encourage your officers to do the same. Also send out a reminder message to those who've RSVP'd to the Facebook. Add any details, especially if you have like free food and a social. But that's not enough. You absolutely have to chalk and flyer as part of your last big push. Have your members stand out in the quad area and hand out flyers for the event, telling students to come out tonight. Talk to students in the quad, explain the event to them, and so on. And remember, successful marketing on campus is all about volume. Usually a student needs to see a message 5 times before it sinks in. For every student that is seeing a flyer for the 8th time, 10 more just saw it. So game day. So basically the way you want to have this out is like someone should be in charge of picking up the speaker or muting the speaker. So that person should just, be handling the speaker. There should be someone else who is in charge of like being in the event room to make sure everything is set up. Set up a table for your organization with flyers and relevant pieces of material. Have the outside, if possible, have this outside of the room, but include either inside, a banner, or write something that says that'll get your name out there. Make sure to also have a bottle of water for the speaker at the podium. At all times, like someone should be taking pictures and, maybe documenting the event. We usually have an outside person come and do video of the event. And you can use these for your group website and social media and other advertising. And make sure to, at the end, make sure to collect everyone's contact info. Don't just sign up. Don't just have a sign-up form in the back of the room. Like, be proactive. Have someone at the door asking people. Have your officers talking to people and encouraging them to, like, get involved with the society and stuff like that. Yep, and I think that's it. Yeah, be sure to give the speaker a thank you card and a small gift. Usually we get them a bottle of wine. I don't know why that says bottle of wine, but it should be bottle of wine. And that's the game day. And then the last one is step 10 after the event. This is where you send a follow-up email to the speaker the next day, thanking him and her again, saying the students really enjoyed the lecture, et cetera, et cetera. And then also follow up with new attendees, give them information on how to get involved with the group, include like, when you're meeting next time, et cetera. Celebrate your success, take your members out, you guys, Falco just talked about going out to socials to build community, so stuff like that would be great. And then tell us about your event, because we'll post, have a post about it on our blog, and then others can, look at it and be inspired to do the same. So that's about it. Well, we're going to switch on to Kelly Jameson, who will talk about transitioning leadership, followed by Karina, and then we'll have room for a Q&A at the end. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking about leadership transition. So the first thing to keep in mind is that this is an extremely important process, and one that most student leaders take far too lightly. After putting in years of hard work with your organization, you obviously don't want your group to go out of existence. So this is really critical to make sure that the new leadership is ready to go. The group will keep continuing. You'll still have events and a presence on campus in the future. So one of the most critical things you can do in ensuring that leadership transition is undertaken properly is by creating an executive board handbook. Now, that's something that you won't be able to do in a day. It's probably something that you start working on, in your last year as president. It should be as detailed as possible, and it basically will be a guide for the next group leader for how to run the group. So it should include everything. It should have contact information for private organizations that you've worked with, information on the administrators that you need to talk to for running events, that kind of thing, and contact information for any speakers that maybe you've brought to campus in the past, maybe local speakers who would be willing to come to your meetings, that kind of thing. Anyone who's helped out your group or is critical for your group to continue should be in that handbook. There also should be really detailed instructions on how to reserve rooms, how to handle all the general logistics that go into running events, that kind of thing on campus. General instructions on how the group is run, basically going through how meetings are conducted, what's worked in the past and what hasn't, what kind of a group is this? Is it a discussion group? It's generally an activism group, that kind of thing. You can also include a history of past events. That sometimes is helpful just to put the overall group in perspective for the upcoming leader. Generally, it should just include anything that you think is relevant for the presidents of your organization. So those will vary by group. But that's the general gist on creating an executive board handbook. Now, when you're actually working on transitioning leadership, it's all about finding the right people. Now, this is a process that will take some time, and it's really important to start looking early. So if you're a junior and you're the president of the group already, I would highly suggest looking for your protege early on and being ready to transition leadership onto them the next year. A lot of times students think about transitioning in the spring of their senior year, which is usually a mistake. It's really good to look for people early, find them early, and start training them early. If possible, definitely start the year beforehand. This is what I did in my own group, and it's actually worked out really well. I was able to train the new president while I was still in school, so that when I graduated in May, it was a relatively smooth transition. Now, as far as the actual training process goes, leaving them with a handbook on how to run things usually isn't enough. You should go through the handbook with them, make sure they don't have any questions, make sure it's all clear. It's really easy to leave out important details and that kind of thing. Since it's so secondhand for you, it doesn't really occur to you to put a lot of information in there. So make sure you've got everything in there and that they understand everything and nothing's going over their head. Now, on top of going over the handbook, it's a good idea to take them around campus, take them to the student activities office, introduce them to the administrators there in person. I know on my campus we had a room for organizations that had materials, you could do copies in there, that kind of thing. I think a lot of campuses have that sort of thing. So take them in there, make sure they know how to sign in, what they're allowed to use, what kind of procedures they have to follow. And just, generally spend an afternoon just talking about everything well before you'll actually be leaving campus. For a while you're transitioning, make sure you CC them on all your emails. Introduce anyone who's getting in contact with you to the new leader so you can kind of facilitate those introductions. And just make sure they understand what exactly goes into your role as president, what kind of communications you have with people and that sort of thing. And then just generally making all the important introductions along the way, making sure they know who to contact for things, and feel comfortable in their new role as president. Then the final transition, make sure you update the public image of the group. So changing the leadership on Facebook, people often forget to do this, but it's really critical that students know who to contact and know who's in charge, and so that the group doesn't look outdated when the president listed is actually been graduated for a year or so. If you have forums, as far as the transition goes, make sure you update those with the school. I know every school is different as far as bureaucracy goes. Some really don't care. Some care a lot and can get rid of your group if you don't follow the right procedures. So just generally, the big takeaways in leadership transition are to start early, to be as detailed as possible, and to make sure you've got the right people. So that's generally what I suggest for leadership transition. Of course, happy to take any questions. If you type it in the question box, we'll answer those at the end.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. And we'll be moving on to Karina, who will be presenting about marketing and branding. Karina, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Yep, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good to go.
Fantastic. Hi, guys. I'm presenting on marketing and branding. I think the first thing that you have to ask yourself is, can you guys see my slides? Hello?
They can't, but they're about to.
Okay, great. Okay, can everyone see now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So when you're branding, I think the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what are the images you want the people who are looking at the products that your club produces and puts out there, what kind of images are they invoking? So a good example of that is at my university, the American University in DC, the furry snake you're seeing on the screen was actually our mascot for a while, and this is the image that we had on our Facebook page and everywhere else. I don't know about you guys, but the first thing I think of is, like Harry Potter or Voldemort when I see this furry snake. this wasn't really something that was working for us, because when people would see this, they would immediately sort of be turned off. And it really wasn't working for us. At American University, you have to, sort of be very environmentally friendly, very liberal, very much, a global citizen, especially at a university like that, when all the other universities, organizations had, mascots and logos that were green, had little globes on them. We thought we were differentiating ourselves, but really we were just sort of alienating ourselves from the mainstream student population. So a better idea for something like our environment would be something like what the GW Society did, which is the green tree that you're seeing on the right-hand side. It sort of invokes images of like peace and prosperity, and just kind of like more of a calm thing. So I think the number one thing you want to ask yourself is, A, what is your student population like? Are you at a school where students respect something that looks very different, or are you at a school where everyone has a certain mindset that they follow, and they sort of immediately get turned off to certain images? And after you think about that, you have to sort of restructure your mascot or logo, your color schemes, and sort of put that everywhere. So whether that's on your Facebook page, the club blog, the flyers, if you guys have any banners that hang outside of the activism tables or your events, make sure you have that everywhere. And if you do have an event, make sure you call up the newspaper at least a week in advance, and rather email them nowadays, and say, hey, we're having this event, would you like to send a photographer or something like that? Even if they're not able to give you a full story on your speaker, a single photograph with your club with this giant banner in the back would really help if at your university people actually read the newspaper and open it. Another thing you have to ask yourself is, what kind of student leader do the students in your university respect? Are you at a type of school where students who are sort of seen as hardcore activists are sort of like ignored? So the image on the right, someone who's sort of like artsy, will stand up, will sort of do sort of like really, courageous acts outside on the quad or something like that. Is that the type of person that the students at your university would respect? Or do they sort of respect people who sort of toe the line and, sort of dress in a certain way and, uphold a certain image? And depending on that, not that you have to change yourself, but at your student events and whatnot, if you're at a school where people sort of look down on like the hippy dippies, be sure to wear a suit. If you're at a school where people really respect activists, maybe if you really, really like wearing bow ties, like maybe you shouldn't wear a bow tie, maybe you should wear like jeans and like a t-shirt when you're tabling. So it's really important to remember that you and the other club members, no matter whether or not they have a position, you're constantly a face for your organization, especially if you're an organization that's sort of pushing for pro-liberty ideas, which I understand are usually somewhat of the politically, a part of the political minority in most schools. The other thing you have to ask yourself is, like, what can you get away with, and how can you make something work for you even when you're not physically there? So I couldn't really find this image anymore, but a few weeks ago there was a student organization in England that was posting flyers that had a picture of, it was quite like a sexy picture. It had like a woman, like her back showing, and there was a guy that she was hugging, and the caption was, harder, faster, better, stronger, and underneath, way at the bottom, it said, cut our deficits, and then the student organization's name. Are you at a school where A, that wouldn't get you in trouble, and B, that's something that the students would actually find funny and like and respect? Are you at a school where if you did something like that, people would really look down on you and think that's sort of vulgar? I think the first step is really figuring out what works for your student body. How do you make something work for you when it comes to branding when you're not physically there? So we all have really busy schedules of students, and it's not necessarily possible for us to table or be outside, the cafeteria for hours each day, right? So if you can get permission to possibly hang up like a very big banner outside a parking structure where a lot of people park their cars, or just put like a giant banner up on a wall that's near the library where a lot of people walk past, that's a really, really good idea. That way, even if you're not physically there, even if your organization's not tabling, people see your name and people see the color scheme that you use in your Facebook page or your blog or your website, and they sort of familiarize themselves. half the battle of student organizing is sort of maintaining a presence on campus and recruiting new people, and you can't really do that if people don't know that you're there, and not that only that you're there, but also that you're there and you're relevant and you're actually a source of like activity on campus. You also have to brand your organization to the insiders. So if you have a student activities club, a student activities office, make sure that not only do you maintain a good relationship with those people, but also, maybe after you talk about logistics with them, spend 5 minutes talking to them about what your club does, what kind of ideas you guys uphold, and so on. A really good example is at my school, I would have these long 10 to 15 minute conversations that weren't really necessary with the student activities advisor after we were done talking about logistics. And a few weeks ago, there were some outside newspapers, and one of the journalists from our school newspaper sent us an email saying, hey, you guys are sort of known as the people who push back against the Democrats and the Republicans. We're doing a story, we're doing an event. Do you want to be the third voice? So whether it's talking to professors or staff members at your university, or somewhat of the bigger organizations leaders. So for example, if you have a student government at your school, and letting them know what your organization does and what kind of ideas you uphold really, really helps. So just brand your organization. I know sounding like the people who are just politically discontent all the time doesn't necessarily seem like a positive thing, but if you let the key people at your university campus know that that's sort of what you guys do, the next time they have an event, or if a outside journalist ever comes to them, they will recommend you. They will say, oh, contact the college Dems, contact the college Republicans, and oh, there's also SFL or the Free Market Society. With branding, repetition is key. I think someone else mentioned this earlier today, but I can't stress that enough. If you look at what the advertisers do, whether it's McDonald's or Burger King, they constantly repeat images over and over and over again. So if you have a certain color scheme, if you do yellow and black, or you do your school colors, if you're at a school where you have lots of school pride, but then incorporate a small logo on there somewhere, just repeat it anywhere. Repeat it on your Facebook page. Put it up on your flyers. If you have if your school allows you to do this, if you have a student member from your organization, write an op-ed or something, and at the bottom have their picture. Next to their picture, put in your club logo. If you're sending out emails on a weekly basis, use MailChimp. It's a free resource online that allows you to sort of format your emails and put in colors and put in images and whatnot. So it's not just a plain email. So every time people are opening up your club's email, not only are they reading the content, but also seeing that logo. That way, if they're ever walking around on campus and there's a flyer somewhere with your organization stamp on it, they'll be sure to look at it. When it comes to marketing, again, tailoring is key. So figure out, where do people on your campus actually look? I mean, you guys might have a newspaper, but if only 10 people are reading it, is it really something worth advertising in? Ask yourself what hasn't been done yet. So if most organizations at your school are sort of just posting flyers around everywhere, and people are just sort of sick of walking past bulletin boards that are overflowing with flyers, maybe you should, check for permission first, and then take a bunch of chalk and just chalk these giant, illustrations on the sidewalk, especially outside of high traffic areas like cafeterias, libraries, the building that houses the biggest academic department, stuff like that. And ask yourself, where do students actually look? Is there a popular, student blog on campus somewhere? And if there is, can you talk to them and possibly work out a partnership where you, put your organization's logo or sort of an advertisement on their blog? You have to do your research. So, talk to your student activities office, talk to your student government, and see if there's any funding that you can get. Sometimes your school newspapers will charge you a certain fee, or sometimes if you're living in a college with a really big population and students actually live off campus, there are community newspapers. So contact the community newspaper and see, and let them know that you are not a for-profit organization, you're a student organization, and hey, we have this event coming up that discusses something like budget deficits, which affects everyone in the community. Would it be possible for us to get a free advertisement in your newspaper? Figure out the cool events outside your circle. So even if you are a student leader, there are certain social circles we hang out in, and you might not know anything about the things that go on outside. So for example, at my school, I'm in the econ department, I'm with Students for Liberty. I don't really hang out with the artsy kids. And my sophomore year, I found out that at my school, the a cappella groups are actually a really big deal. I mean, I had never been to a concert, but I finally showed up to a concert and there were like 300 people there. And then I was like, oh, this is a really big deal. This is like a weekly event that draws a lot of people. So then AUSFL started like, sort of like, I mean, I ended up going to those events and sort of talking to people about it. We started chalking outside the pathways that led to the place where these a cappella concerts were. So figure out where people go, like what are the hip and happening spots, and if there is a way, can you advertise around them? And that's pretty much all I have.
Okay, great. At this time, we'll do Q&A. Like I said, please type your questions into the question box. And if it's for a certain person, just make sure you can say Karina, or you can say for everyone. Okay. What are some good fundraisers that have worked well? Karina or Kelly, does anyone want to jump on this?
I can. At my university, a lot of people go out to the city on Friday and Saturday nights, and they come back really, really drunk between like 1 to 3 a.m. So one fundraiser idea that we've had, we just haven't had the time to implement it this semester yet, is buying a ton of pizza from like Domino's and then sitting there between 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. and just overcharging the pizza by like $9.
I can jump in as well on this one. So something our group has done a couple times is we try and combine. We try and combine our activist events with fundraising things. So most of the times we've done have actually been to some end promoting our group. So we've sold T-shirts. We sold and the drug war T-shirts around 420. One of our most successful fundraising events was selling lower the drinking age shot glasses, which is an idea I stole from someone a long time ago. So feel free to steal it from me as well. You can order a lot of shot glasses really cheap online. Put some kind of catchy logo like that and sell them for $5 or something on campus. So that's gotten us a chance to get some attention to our group, as well as making some money to run events and that kind of thing as well.
And I'll jump in as well. You can also try asking, this isn't really a fundraiser event, but it's a good way to get speakers that you don't have to pay for, or like that other organizations will pay for. So we've kind of built a relationship with another outside organization in our community, and we co-host events together. So basically, like, they'll pay for the speaker, pay for the travel of the speaker, and we'll just kind of run the event. So I don't know, you can try to build allies to kind of overcome some of the, having to pay for travel, having to pay for honorarium of the speaker, because they'll help you out with that as well. Okay, and then we have another question. What do you do if you're tabling next to an aggressive group? Karina, do you want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our group actually has personal experience with this, or we did like during my earlier years. The first thing I do is, even before we start tabling, while we're setting up, I'll have one of the other members sort of set up and walk over and I'll introduce myself to the other group that's known to be sort of aggressive to us in the past. And you know, if you show up to someone and you're pretty confident, you smile, you push out your hand to like shake their hands, you know, they'll be uncomfortable with it if they really, really dislike you, but they will sort of shake your hand back, and you can say like, hey, like, nice day, right? Yeah, like, what about the student activities? Man, I hate how they're so stingy with the chairs. And so sort of like make small talk. And you know what, even if they don't respond back and are kind of like being awkward, like if you're just that nice to them starting from the beginning, and you walk over and you introduce yourself and you sort of talk about like other commonalities that you have, like your perhaps mutual hatred of student activities, I think they'll be a little bit embarrassed to heckle you later on in the day, or you know, they might be less likely to do so. So I always use the approach that be like ridiculously friendly, and even with some rival groups on campus, I've had coffee with them before just to introduce myself. I've sort of built relationships in the sense that, you know, with the Roosevelt Institute, that totally has the polar opposite of everything a USFL upholds. I've had coffee with their president like 2 semesters ago. I introduced myself, and every time I see him on campus, I smile really wide at him and I wave. And he sort of gives this awkward, like, half wave, like he's just kind of weirded out by me. But you know what? I've never heard anything aggressive from him. And if you ever have another group, like one time, a good example is we had the Students for Social Justice, sort of, one of the members sort of come up to us and be like, oh, like, how could you, and like, capitalist pig and stuff like that. The next week, I emailed them and I said, hey, you know, president of AU Social Justice Club, like, one of our members came up to our table like last week and sort of made a few critical comments, which I was really happy because, you know, it showed the start of a dialogue, but they ran away before I could talk to them. Would you like to come and debate us during our next meeting, or, you know, co-host an event? And that way, even if they don't respond to your request for an event, I think that kind of like kills them with kindness, and they'll be sort of embarrassed to do that again.
Okay, sorry. Let's move on to the other question. Okay, there's a question about getting around bureaucratic problems, and how can we go about, you know, overcoming problems with the bureaucracy and other issues like that, I guess. Anyone want to tackle that one?
Okay, I can help on that. I think especially if you're starting out as a newer club, or a club that's sort of disliked by the administration, first of all, you have to start way early. So if you know that, you know, the Student Activities Office has given your club trouble in the past, you know, don't show up to student activities the first day of school like every other organization does. Contact them 4 weeks before school starts over the summer during their summer hours, and, you know, really set everything up. And sometimes, you know, I would say like sometimes like being a little bit, like faking a little bit niceness does work. Like, for example, there was like this one administrator that really didn't like us, or not administrator, I should say, like bureaucrat in the Student Activities Office, who always sort of gave me a really hard time. And I remember I would like go out of my way and I would call them occasionally, and I would say like, even if I knew how to do something, like how to sign up, you know, newer members for trainings that Student Activities offers, I'd sort of call and be like, you know, hey Glenda, like, how are you? You know, I'm doing okay. Hey, like, you know, I remember you gave such a good presentation during the training that I attended. I was just wondering, do you have any recommendations for this, and that? And, you know, it seems a bit of a silly thing to do, but how long did that take me? Like 5-10 minutes out of my day. And a few weeks later, you know, she sort of really seemed to warm up to me a little bit, because I made her feel like she was sort of like necessary, and she gave really good presentations, even though I sort of fell asleep during her presentation. So I would say building relationship with the bureaucrat is key, even if they're not necessarily warm with you in person. Another thing you can do is constantly checking in with them. So even if they've told, if they've told you, oh, this is something that you'll have in 2 weeks, get back to us in 2 weeks. Don't pester them with emails about that specific thing. Don't be like, hey, like, is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet? But rather email them, once a week and just check in and be like, hey, my student organization was thinking about this list of events to do after we get our approval in a week and a half. Do you foresee any problems with any of these, or how can we plan these with you and stuff like that? Like, does that make sense to everyone?
Yep, I think that sounds good. If anyone has a last question or anything, we can try to get it in, but I think it's about time to end the webinar. Let's see if any more questions come up. Okay, how can I go about getting my first members? That's always a common one. Anyone want to tackle that one? Well, just to maybe start off, tabling is a great way to do that, as Karina was mentioning. Have good people sitting at the table. We always have big admissions events going on. Try to get into those admission events and table there. Have something that's catchy on your table. Something that, I don't know, have people standing behind, not in front of, or in front of the table and not behind the table, to try to get other members to come out and talk to new students. I guess going to classrooms as well and talking to, asking your professors if you can, make a brief speech before class about your organization. With the Economic Society at George Mason, what we usually do is ask professors if we can advertise our events, and by advertising our events, then we try to get, some students interested in the Econ Society as well, and then have them talk to us after class or something along those lines. But, talk to people in your classes, see who has other interests, and also, contact us at SFL. If you're at a certain university and we know a couple other people there, we might be able to, get you guys together and help you start a group or help you find some members. Anybody else want to jump in on that one?
I'll just add, I had a really hard time when I was first starting to find a couple more people. I emailed everyone I could find, anyone on Facebook that looks remotely pro-liberty. I sent them a message. And I didn't get a lot of responses, but I did get a few, and I finally found my co-founder after doing that after a while. I would also say maybe asking other political organizations on campus if you can make a quick presentation about your group, maybe in your economics classes, your political science classes, just throwing it out there that you're starting this group if anyone's interested, and then have a Facebook event created to invite anyone who might be interested to come and meet up and talk about what they want to do with the group, just to kind of get things rolling. That'd be my suggestion.
I'd like to add something quickly. So I think if you can attract attention in a good way, especially during the first 6 weeks of the fall semester, when the freshmen have sort of flooded the campus, you can get a lot of potential recruits that way. So not that I'm suggesting you do this, but this is just a tactic I've seen another group use. There's a group called Students for Justice in Palestine at AU, and I was talking to one of their club leaders. And in the second week of school, when everyone was just sort of outside, the weather was warm, they had 2 people dressed in like military jackets with paper cutout guns that were circling 2 other students who were blindfolded, had their hands tied, were sitting on their knees on the quad, and they were circling them. And this is like a very jarring spectacle to sort of see, right? So she told me how she was standing off to the side and handing out little leaflets for Students for Justice in Palestine with their email address and their Facebook group and whatnot. And after that attention-grabbing event on the quad, rather display, I would say, not really an event, they added almost like 80 people in one day to their listserv. So if you can get attention in a good way, and just sort of especially get the newer people on campus, so the freshmen and the transfer students who are looking, essentially shopping around on campus to dedicate their time to something, I think that's a really good idea. I think Alexander had something to add.
Oh. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the best way to get students is to kind of go through Facebook, find people, like other panelists were saying, find people who share common goals or interests, and then personally invite them to kind of a group planning meeting at a coffee shop or pizzeria or anything, and just give that opportunity. And you really have to send the personal invites, personal messages, tailor your messages to the actual individual, bring up a discussion point that they talked about, and then when you all meet together, kind of discuss what you want to do, that you want to start an organization, and essentially build that core group right off the bat. Because if you're going to, you need people to table, you need people to do a lot of these other marketing tools. And I think the best way to start is what we did at ASU, is just have the Facebook group, saw who was active, and then personally invited them to events. We made the event public, but it was really the people that we actively tried to pursue that showed up. And don't take no for an answer. Liberty means more.
Okay, great. Well, I think we're officially out of time. So thank you so much to Karina, Kelly, and Alex, as well as all of our participants this evening. I hope you can all continue coming back to our webinars to learn more throughout the year. Our next webinar is with Stefan Molyneux on his topic, which is Black Belt Ninja Liberty Moves. Basically, Stefan Molyneux will help you how to effectively deal with the most common objections to a free society. And he says, who will build the roads, or who will take care of the poor, how will the young be educated, and so on. And Stefan Molyneux asks you to bring your most challenging questions to the webinar. This webinar will be held next Wednesday, October 12th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. On a final note, shortly you'll be emailed a follow-up email where you will find more detailed information about SFL and our upcoming webinar, as well as a survey to evaluate the webinar. Please take a couple of minutes to fill it out. It helps us to know how to improve our programs and makes these webinars more interesting for you. And with that, I think we are officially wrapped up. I know we have a couple more questions that we didn't get to. Please feel free to email them to myself or any of the panelists. I'll send a follow-up email, and you'll have my email address there. And thank you again for your time this evening, and have a wonderful night, everyone.
Thanks, Leah.